terms of numbers? Have you hit your target? What would you say are the achievements so far?
Well, I mean, as I said, NAM is 120 member states. We have 90 to 93 member states that are here, that are participating, and that's way above our expectation. And the delegations, the numbers are good, and everything, as I said earlier, is well aligned, and we're on course.
Any learnings from this for future meetings and conferences happening in Uganda?
Certainly, a lot of learning in terms of handling large delegations, in terms of preparing for high-level meetings such as this one. So as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with the entire NOC, after the meeting, we shall be documenting our experiences so that they inform the future.
Thank you very much, sir, and we really appreciate you for your time. Keep doing what you're doing, and we appreciate that everything looks nice so far.
Thank you.
Bless you. So that's the NAM conference that is happening right now here, and as UBC, we are detailed to be able to bring you everything that is happening. A lot of achievements, a lot of learnings from here. The 19th NAM Summit is happening right now, and Uganda is only the 6th country in Africa to be able to host it, and that's a record that we've set. He also tells us 92, 93 delegates are here to be able to experience, and Uganda Tourism Board, in touch with also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have made packages especially for the delegates to experience Uganda. Also the local cuisines that they're having here at their meals, both lunch, breakfast, and all these meals, they're getting to experience Uganda. You need to be here to be able to see how magnificent the building is, but most of all, how the organization has gone on here. As UBC, we're dedicated to ensure that we bring you everything happening, that as soon as these committees are done, we'll be bringing you details of what has happened. From me, Timothy Nyangweso, UBC, have a good day. I did.
UBC TV, we continue to welcome you and thanking you so much for being part of our official broadcast of the 19th NAM Summit of 2024, being hosted by Uganda, one of the member states of the non-aligned movement body, or call it a bloc or anything. We are hosting it today, and history is being written in the line of Uganda. Today being the 15th of January 2024, we are hosting it right from Azerbaijan, and we shall be seeing where we'll hand it over. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa. At this point, UBC TV Newsroom takes over with more updates and giving you the details of whatever will be happening in far as the non-aligned movement summit that is being hosted by Uganda is concerned. Now, earlier on in the day, we had a number of discussions and events that took place that we'll be giving you as newsroom on top of more other information that will be flowing in. Uganda's Minister for Foreign Affairs, General Jeje Odongo, called for collective addressing of issues that affect countries under the non-aligned movement. Odongo says that Uganda believes in solidarity and multilateralism, which other countries under the NAM umbrella need to adopt also in order to have peace, harmony, and effective trade. The minister's remarks came in the wake of challenges that these countries face, including security, health, pandemics, climate change, and terrorism, among others. He was speaking during the opening of the 19th summit of the Non-Aligned Movement Countries Summit, currently taking place at Speak Resort Munyonyo in Kampala. And we have it here.
Azerbaijan's leadership. Distinguished delegates, as you all know, the senior officials and ministerial meetings are preparatory to the summit conference. NAM remains an important organization, and given the increasingly complex international situation, the 10 Bandung Principles, which all recollect were enunciated about 1995, continue to be as relevant today. Today, we are faced with several challenges around the world, including conflicts in different parts of the world, food insecurity, health pandemics, climate change, and terrorism among the many challenges that we face. We also recognize challenges in financing for development and the very serious issue of the debt burden that paints a very depressing global economic outlook. It is therefore crucial for us to address existing, new, and emerging issues collectively and in the interest of our membership for the good of mankind. Like I mentioned during the 60th anniversary of the first conference of the non-aligned countries held in Belgrade in October 2021, Uganda believes that multilateralism and solidarity are required much more than ever, so that we individually prepare and collectively respond to further challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's therefore befitting that this year's summit will be held under the theme, Deepening Cooperation for Shared Global Affluence. This is indeed a call for cooperation and collaboration within the NAM membership, and this, I believe, will be emphasized in the outcome documents. I am also happy to note that member states have interacted with the Kampala Declaration, which is one of our outcome documents, with a lot of interest. The deliberations during your session will be important as you seek common ground on all issues. I look forward to seeing the results of your meeting. Lastly, I want to encourage you during the course of the summit not to limit yourselves to this conference facility or indeed to Kampala City alone, but also to find time to explore other parts of this country and to enjoy the beautiful flora and fauna that exist in this country, and indeed to also enjoy the hospitality of the Ugandan people. Let me, on that note, once again welcome you all to Kampala, welcome you all to the 19th Summit, and as I conclude, I wish you all great deliberations in this meeting. I thank you all for your attention. I say this for God and my country.
Yes, that's the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs. That's the Honorable Abubakari J.J. Odong, General. And he has been giving welcoming remarks to the guests that are here, the delegates that are in Kampala to see of the start of the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit of 2024, proudly hosted by Uganda. Moving on, we talked to the Honorable Minister for Information and National Guidance, and he says that whenever a nation hosts an international summit, there are economic benefits. More than 5,000 delegates are in Uganda for the Nana Line Movement Summit. The delegates are meeting in Munyonyo, Kampala, and Serena Kigo in Wakiso District. The Minister for Information and National Guidance, that's Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, highlighted how Uganda has officially started benefiting even before the delegates settle or all of them arrive here in Uganda, before even the end or the midway of the summit. According to the Minister for Information and National Guidance, we are already benefiting as a country. We have him here.
Well, the delegates have already begun jetting in, but also the way the conference is arranged, we are starting with a meeting of the technical people. And thereafter, there will be a meeting of ministers of foreign affairs, and then the summit. That is the meeting of heads of state and the government. So we have confirmations. They have been oscillating between 30 and 40 of the heads of state, but they are yet to start jetting in. But the technical people and the ministers of foreign affairs are the ones who are coming in. But in the course of the week, we should be able to see heads of state and government coming in the country. And we are set, we are ready as a country. Today is day one. We are starting with a meeting of the technical people who will be reviewing the documents, because you see NAM meetings take successive steps. So now, like today and tomorrow, the technical people will be reviewing the documents coming from the previous meeting as they prepare the outcome document which will come out of these summits and the Kampala Declaration. Well, there are many global issues. You see, NAM at the beginning fought for independence of different countries which were under colonization, and sovereignty of countries is very key. As you notice, much as we are sovereign, much as we are independent, we still get machinations from the Western world that wants to subdue a number of countries, including Uganda. Recently, we passed laws here in the parliament, but some countries say they are not comfortable with the law passed by a national independent parliament. So those issues, the sovereignty of countries, international peace, how do we resolve conflicts which take place in different parts of the world, especially in our communities of NAM? I think those are the issues which will constitute the discussions in this NAM. But also issues of socio-economic development, issues of climate change, issues of disease burden, issues of financing development initiatives within the developing countries, issues of how do we learn from each other in terms of skills and technology transfer, the emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, and all these cutting-edge technologies, how do they affect what we do today? All these issues will be part of the discussions. We have many benefits that will accrue from these kind of summits. They are the immediate benefits, like those who will reap from the presence of these guests, whether they want to be staying in our hotels, they are eating our food, they will do shopping, so there are those direct benefits. But the most important are the medium, long-term benefits, because we are going to be engaging these delegations. In addition to the summit, there will be these bilateral engagements. We have a trade and business summit that is going to take place, a lot of discussions, and therefore we expect to even get business and trade deals with the different countries. We are exploring markets for our products. We hope to get markets for many of the things which we produce here. We also expect to have higher numbers of tourists flowing into the country following this summit, and also to attract investors, because one of the areas we've been focusing on is how do we attract investors from within and without to come and add value to our products here by way of setting up industries, factories. So all these are benefits which we expect to get from holding this conference. And also,
we agreed on this political declaration during our meeting in New York, and we raised 3 points who has been mentioned by the Palestinian delegation.
Honorable Minister for Information, National Guidance, and that his name is Dr. Chris Bariomonsi. He was talking to our reporter, Ngabo Amon, this morning, and that is what he shared, that as a country, we are going to benefit a lot. In fact, we are already benefiting. Now, away from the minister, the Non-Aligned Movement is a forum of 120 countries that are not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc. It was founded in 1950 to advance interests of developing countries in the context of Cold War confrontation. The initiative was formed by two countries, Yugoslavia and India, in 1950. A historian with Chambogo University, Professor Robert Odiambo, highlights Uganda joining the movement and how it has benefited in shaping its democracy. We have him as well.
It's a great day for Uganda. It's a nostalgic day. It gives us a memory of when we are attaining independence in 1962, because Uganda joined the Non-Aligned Movement in 1964 in the conference or summit in Cairo. But before that, NAM had started its conferences earlier. NAM is an idea that was started by the then president of Yugoslavia, Joseph Tito. This man had just broken off from the USSR, which is today Russia, and he was wondering how he and his country would survive the big forces of Cold War, because during the Cold War there was a division of the world into two, or what they normally call the bipolar situation, where we had the Western capitalists led by the United States and followed by a number of countries from Western Europe, and then we had the USSR leading the communist bloc, and so many other countries in Eastern Europe and Asia. And these two were fighting a psychological war, which was called a Cold War, through their armed forces of NATO or NATO and the Warsaw Pact. And therefore, these people, having just attained independence, wanted to see how they could survive this huge wind of the Cold War. And for that matter, they decided to come up with a force which they named Non-Aligned. They didn't want to be capitalist, they didn't want to be communist, they wanted to be neutral. But this neutrality does not mean that they were not doing some sort of communism, because if you see, Yugoslavia was a socialist country, but they didn't want to go and fight in terms of supporting NATO or Warsaw Pact. So convincing other people, they were joined later by the then Prime Minister of India, Nehru, and then 5 countries came to be, including Yugoslavia, India, then Egypt, Ghana, and Indonesia. And those are the first who sat in the summit of 1961 in Belgrade. We are moving in the right direction. We are adapting to technology. We are adapting to a number of ideas, but also maintaining our egalitarianism. In fact, many people who come in Africa here, they are normally not very happy with what they see as buildings, but they are happy, for example, the value of a family, the value of how people develop in a community, in a village. If you go to our villages, how the people help each other there. That's a very important thing. You may not find it in Europe, you may not find it in other places. It is a unique thing for Uganda. So what I think, in my view, is right now to move a big gear, and we see how we can push our people out of poverty, how we can maintain and sell our ideas outside Uganda, and we also become seriously idea exporters. The other day I heard the president was saying that very soon we shall be exporting people to Christianize Europeans, and that's something we are waiting to see. So I really feel that things like NAM, to a local human being in the village there, they may not really understand what it helps him or her to survive there. But NAM is a force that can now be used to debate and agitate and campaign? Because you see these movements, you don't go there just to be a participant. You must be getting something for your people.
Congratulations on the chairmanship of the movement, and I assure you of my delegation's full support for your chairmanship. I also want to congratulate and thank the Republic of Azerbaijan for its able and commendable chairmanship of our group. Very briefly, the UAE just fully supports the chair's proposal, which has been endorsed by speakers before me, to not reopen the final document of Baku, save for some technical updates and, of course, necessary language on the devastating.
It's day one of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit 2024 that is being hosted by Uganda in Kampala, and Broadcast House at UBC is a beehive of activities because we are not only the national broadcaster, but we are the official broadcaster of this 19th NAM Summit. Earlier today, our reporter Dennis Ugoa caught up with Miss Patricia Kishemeire, a special representative of the International Municipal Forum of the BRICS. We need to understand the BRICS Summit and how it relates with the non-aligned movement. Dennis Ugoa had an engagement with her, and it is all here.
So we are joined by Madam Patricia, and she's going to introduce herself and bring us up to speed about, of course, the first day of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit that kicks off today on the 15th. Just bring us up to speed of the event, the whole conference, and what does it mean to Uganda and to the member countries. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Patricia Kishemeire. I am a special representative for the International Municipal BRICS Forum. BRICS are the emerging economies of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and more countries, including African countries like Egypt, have joined this year. So we are, I am here and about NAM1 because I am a Ugandan and Uganda is hosting this movement, but also because BRICS, at the heart of BRICS, we believe in multilateralism, a new world order that allows countries to protect their independence, to be able to make decisions on their economy without having to be influenced by higher Western powers. Now, about NAM and the symbolism of Uganda. Uganda has been a member since 1964. It's now 63 years of being part of this movement, and they have attended different summits, and today we are hosting this movement. It's very good for this country, one, to the country and to the economy of this country, to the tourism of this country, but also to the citizens. There has been a question of how do we gain from hosting NAM, the ones you normally call Muntu wa wansi, but I have seen people working at the summit, people painting the pavers, and if you have business, before we even think about other problems of this country, if you have not advertised your business for these people to come and support you, you're the first terrorist of this country. I'm sorry to say that, but yeah. So we are all going to gain because the trickle down, the ripple effect, when we get money from these countries, they'll come to the people to do the services, and people can also sell out their different businesses. Even in Kampala, I know some of the delegates will stay beyond the dates of the conference and will want to move to the peripheries of this country, to Kasese. So just position yourself to make sure that your business or whatever you're doing sells. Now, the relevance of NAM, I must say, when you ask me about relevance, NAM is significant like it was 63 years ago. But I must say that there is a divide between the vision of NAM and how the country or the world order has changed and the globalization. And we have the rhetorics of NAM, 2/3 of the United Nations, NAM, 120 members, NAM, 63 years of existence. Can this movement be able to negotiate, for example, for the removing of the African debt burden? Because when you look at the Britain conference that happened in the 1950s, the important economic features of the United Nations were removed from the UN agenda and moved to the IMF and World Bank. And when you look at the United Nations, for example, Security Council, developed countries are given veto powers. It means that our countries that are developing and African countries don't have much of a say in these organizations. So NAM is the deal. This is what we should use to be able to bring our voices, to say the things that we want. But also, I would like to say that if I observe, I think that the admission or the criteria of admission of countries to NAM is a bit too much liberal, because we also have a declaration on disarmament of weapons, not having nuclear weapons. But we have Iran and India that has labeled herself as a nuclear power in NAM. So are we able to carry through with this? But what I would like to say that despite the setbacks, despite what we have gone through, NAM, the non-alignment ideology is very significant, it's very important, but what we need to do, we need to revitalize our powers. We want to see the power of NAM on the global scene. We want to see NAM moving into Libya amidst war and not being stopped by NATO. We want to see NAM coming out strongly about terrorism without giving it justification. We want to see NAM reforming, because at the beginning, the objectives were about decolonization. Right now, we don't have many colonies. So what? What is next? We need to look at the economic, we need to look at the other grappling effects, the pollution, environment, and other contemporary issues, and we want to see NAM working.
Okay, you've had a couple of suggestions, but as a journalist, I've not accessed the agenda or the program of this year's of the NAM summit. So do you have a clue of what exactly tops the agenda of this week's discussions?
Yeah, on top of the agenda, like today on day one, it's basically the official meeting about scrutinizing the framework or the different documents of the different NAM summits that have been happening, and topping the agenda is debt and investment. And I think sovereignty is a thing that is always going to be discussed, because as much as we no longer have colonialism, but neocolonialism has come in another form. We have very many issues where developing countries outside, we are given the impression that developing countries are contributing more to pollution, but is it the truth? Because it is the West. And we also have a problem of high tendency in developing countries of protectionism, yet they are telling developing countries to continue and create more markets. But can we be able to sell what we have or our exports to these countries without saying there's a security issue? There's the 264 investigation in the United States of America, where they associate exports from developing countries to be security, to have security effects. So as much as we no longer have colonies, but we think towards the economic world, there has been that thing of making the developing countries look like, you know, we don't want the advancement of the world. So topping the agenda one is debt, is investment, and of course, how to protect the independence of these countries as we go ahead to develop.
Lastly, it's about, of course, the BRICS and the new world order that you've just mentioned. And my question would be, does the new world order hold any water? Because of the fact that we have the BRIC brother out there who thinks he deserves to be on top there and should not be challenged. And BRICS is coming up. I've seen, of course, there's some countries that are admitted on 1st of January. So is there a possibility of more countries being added? And how does it feel to the big brother?
Well, like I said, right now we are in a unipolar world, but there's no consensus on the configuration of the world, because more countries with good intentions are coming up and are big economies. Now, what I would say about BRICS, it's like saying non-alignment does not mean anti-Americanism. Non-alignment does not mean anti-Russia. Non-alignment does not mean anti-Soviet Union. It means an alternative for the countries that are struggling to develop to be able to address their economic disparities and coordinate to collectively attack their problems. It's the same for BRICS. We are not here to replace America. We are not here to replace the West. We are here to give an alternative and say a multipolar world is more, can be more relied on than having a unipolar world or a bipolar, Russia against the United States. But a multipolar world is where there are more countries springing up and developing and able to shape the economies and the political ways of the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Great, yeah.
Dennis Sigor, they are talking to Dr. Patricia, and they managed to give us some information there. Later on, we shall have an interview or a discussion with Timothy Sibasi, with a guest here in studio, and they will still share more about non-aligned movement and more details to do with that. But I have Ivan Kawa here. We want him to give us a situation, a picture of what is happening on the roads around Kampala, and to alert a Ugandan who would want to go wherever, what exactly is on the roads and in the transport line. Yes, Ivan, if we can now get him, we want to hear what exactly is that side, especially on the road. Some people would be having plans of moving, others could be already on the road, but especially those that have plans to move, we need to get to know what exactly the situation is on the road. Yes, Ivan. Okay, we shall get to Ivan later on. We need to put something right, but he has the information and he is there. Let us have Timothy Sibas here. He has a guest to talk to briefly, and we shall continue with the updates. It's UBC TV. Thank you so much for watching. We are into the Non-Aligned Movement Summit that is being hosted here in Kampala. Let us hear from Timothy Sibasi and the guest that he has.
Well, thanks, Jordan, for inviting us here to be part of the interactive news segment. With me in the studio is none other than Dr. Julius Muchinguzi, a communication risk analyst. Julius, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here. Good afternoon, viewers of UBC.
Well, Julius, today is the first day of deliberations into this the Non-Aligned Movement Summit taking place here in Kampala. To start with our conversation now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, General J.J. Odong, did give his opening remarks to the delegates attending the first day of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit. What do you make of his comments? To me, they sound to be more academic. What do you make of them?
Well, thank you very much, Timothy, and I'm happy to be here. First, to just say that, as you said, I'm Julius Muchunguzi. I currently run the communication clinic, where I'm the managing partner. But before that, I was a communications advisor at the Office of the Prime Minister, and I worked for 10 years also as a communications advisor at the Commonwealth Secretariat in London, and handled several CHOGMs in different parts of the world. And until recently, I was serving as an Under-Secretary General for Public Relations at a new organization in Addis Ababa called the Organization of Southern Cooperation. So just for the context of our viewers, on
That
this.
means I'm speaking to the right person.
Thank you very much.
Get to the question.
So the Minister of Foreign Affairs, General Jeje Odong, this morning gave the opening remarks at the opening of the summit. And two elements stood out for me from his remarks. He spoke about multilateralism, that the principle of multilateralism is perhaps more important today than it was when the movement was founded over 60 years ago. And he couldn't have been more spot on. Multilateralism presupposes that the challenges the globe faces today cannot be addressed by one country alone. They cannot be addressed unilaterally. They cannot be addressed on a small scale. They require the collective effort of many countries to address them. And there are so many challenges that we see today where the collective effort of NAM is more important in helping addressing them than many years ago. Take an example of the health challenges that we faced in the past, in the recent past, COVID. The onset of the COVID pandemic showed us that unless all countries are safe, no country is safe. But the response that we got during the COVID vaccination drive, for instance, the global north hoarded vaccines and left out most of the developing countries, which constitute the greatest number in the NAM movement, and even the countries that had resources to buy the vaccines for themselves found themselves having to wait in a long queue. Yet, in a multilateral setting, it requires, one, that there must be equity, it requires that there must be equality, and there must be solidarity. The second point that the minister referred to was actually solidarity. Solidarity presupposes that there is respect in the relations between and among nations. Respect, that there is mutual cooperation, that there is openness, and that there is transparency. That you do not have an approach of an animal farm syndrome, where some animals are more equal, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So the role of NAM today as a movement that should push for effective multilateralism, a multilateral system that serves all, a multilateral system that ensures that there is global equity in the prosperity that we make.
But Julius, you sound like as if you are arguing that some of the problems that the global south is facing are caused by the global north. And that one, I find it not convincing, because if these are clustered to be highly indebted poor countries.
Yes.
And of course, once you are highly indebted, you are bargaining power. Of course, you must have a low bargaining power. So all we can say that I didn't see them being locked out during the COVID pandemic, because the entire world needed the vaccines. So there is no way how the global north could start addressing issues of the global south when also in the global north there were high demand over the vaccines. So you first addressed challenges back home. Mark you, even the global south had the Asian tigers like China that had manufactured the Sinovac. They could as well open markets for China to supply Sinovacs to the third world countries in the global south.
Timothy, let me just let you know that the issues of debt, for instance, and debt indebtedness, the issues of trade imbalance, effectively put most of the countries in the global south and the non-aligned movement in a perpetual state of being sidelined on the global scale. We have the non-aligned movement, but the non-aligned movement does not operate in a vacuum. There is a non-aligned movement, there is a globalization, there is world trade. You know as well as I do know that the rules that govern global trade, where we must take our products to those markets, are controlled, are not fair. And this has been known. So if to take our products to the European market, for instance, or to the American market, or to AGOA, for instance, you find that the systems that are in place, the global trading systems that are in place, are tilted in favor of the North and against the South. And most of the Southern countries are in the non-aligned movement grouping. But so therefore, one of the issues that the non-aligned movement must push is for the reform of the international trade architecture, the international financial architecture, and to ensure that there is equity in access to the financing that is contributed by all but benefits a few. And therefore,
Julius, the problem that I'm having with the Global South, you are much more tilted in always ensuring that the law should be bent to favor you. If trading standards have been set and you are not meeting trading standards of the Eurozone markets, then what should they do for you?
No, listen. One, who sets the rules? When we talk about when we talk about effective multilateralism, we are saying that the rules must be set by all those that are involved, that are affected. But we know that when the rules of the game are being set, some in the global North take the lion's share, the decision making. So the global South and the non-aligned movement must assert its presence on the table of the rule making, so that they don't just present to you that these are the standards, these are the rules that have been set without your participation.
Do you know why?
I know why.
Do you know why?
Tell me.
You are to blame. You have surrendered your economic independence to them.
No.
You have turned out to be a hemorrhage of raw materials to industries, to the markets in Europe.
Why is that so? Why is that so? Because you see, look.
So you should be answering that.
No. Look, the issue is,
because if you're going to turn economic independence, then hold your product, your raw materials, so that they should come and buy
indeed. But you see, we must access these markets. We need to access these markets. We are talking about a situation where, and this was a point that was very well made by Professor Edward Rugumayo. He was a former Minister of Trade. And at one of the WTO meetings in Cancun, I think around 2000, Professor Rugumayo said that the speed of a swarm of bees is determined by its slowest member. He was essentially trying to say that in this world of driving global prosperity, we are in it all together. Because the challenges we face, as I said at the beginning, you may think that the global South countries or NAM countries have abdicated their responsibility, they have handed over their economic sovereignty, and they have not pitched enough. But it's a responsibility of all of us, because we know that when you have an unequal world, you create conditions that are conducive for violence, for extremism, for terror. Because people, you know this, they will tell you that the rich don't sleep because the poor are awake, because they are trying to get the riches of the rich. And the poor are not sleeping because they are looking for something to eat. What that means, that's a simple explanation. What this means is that as important, as true as it is at a basic community scale, it is also true at the international global scale that we need a multilateral system of trade, of investment, of finance that works for all to ensure what has been set in the theme of this NAM summit, which is...
But Julius, we cannot keep on blaming the West.
No, we cannot.
63 years ever since the formation of the non-aligned movement. We cannot still keep on talking about we are being fizzled out by the global north. We are being, there's a lot of injustice. 63 years.
No. You are right.
You need to look at some of the examples, how people like Lee Kuan Yew turned Singapore in a very short time.
No, the issue.
How did China come to be an Asian tiger? Now being we are not borrowing a leaf. And now we are surrendering ourselves to the two Asian tigers, now also to be slaves to them. And from there, then we start explaining that again, this is happening. The two worlds are not equal. No.
I must first say that a lot of progress has been made amongst NAM member states since the organization was founded. It was largely started as a political movement, but which had an economic agenda as well. And so much has happened. Uganda is an example. So much progress has happened in this country. So much progress is happening in most of African countries. The role of regional integration, the role of cooperation at the African continental level. But we cannot forget that there is a big elephant in the room of the global circumstances within which we operate, because no country, no regional grouping, no NAM setting is an island. So as part, because of course we're not saying that every problem that bedevils the membership of NAM is as a result of the North. Not at all. But we're saying that we cannot put our eyes off that point. And that is why the point I was making, and which was made effectively by the minister, Jeje Odong, that we need effective multilateralism. But two, the second point was on solidarity. Solidarity is...
Before we go to solidarity,
yes,
you talked about the issue of debt.
Yes.
Research is showing that many African countries no longer borrow money or get loans from IMF and World Bank and other international money lenders in the global north. They are now finding a bed of roses with the Exim Bank, which is an Asian international banking of the Chinese. Now, what do you make of that? If now you are running to China, China has turned out to be the bailout of many countries in the global south. But the issue is, like though we have just heard that partly some of the issues that they're going to be discussing will be discussing on how can the debt burden be reduced. So doesn't that defeat the issue of economic independence?
It does not.
Because even within, if you are defaulting within your own organization, you are defaulting with your godfather, who is now China. And you are demanding that China should put down part of the debts, should waive the debts.
No.
Really?
No. You see, you must understand the dynamics of debt, especially at nation level. You can't take, when you take it in a simplistic terms, you will say that countries are simply not meeting their obligations. But let me tell you how countries find themselves in a vicious circle of debt. One, why do countries borrow? Why do people borrow? You borrow because you don't have sufficient internally generated resources. How do you get the resources that you need? You must produce and sell and export.
And how you manage the money given to you.
That is another
point. You invest it in the right way.
That is another point.
The moment you do not have an investment plan, those are the problems that many African countries, many countries in the global south end into defaulting on servicing of loans, because they normally divert money for things that were not on plan.
Let me complete this thought process on this. So, at the national level, you must be able to build certain sovereignties to reduce your dependence on loans to finance your operations. But this is how it happens. And just simply, you know, when the war in Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war, started, the wheat and oil that we use in countries here in the global south were depleted. We started seeing a hemorrhage of resources to look for other sources of food for our countries. But you'll say, why can't our countries produce enough? Because the issue is now that we don't have sufficient food sovereignty. Most of our countries do not feed themselves. But to produce food, it's an economic activity. You know that a number of countries in Europe, and even the United States, they heavily subsidize agriculture. And when agriculture is heavily subsidized, you cannot compete on the market. You can't produce wheat in Uganda and compete on the global market with Russia or with Ukraine. You can't compete with the United States in the production of corn or maize. But you see, this is a problem of subsidies. The subsidies are put there to protect the producers in the north, but the ultimate purpose is to drive out the producers in the south. Now you will say,
I've always wanted to differ from the argument that many of the African leaders have always tried to advance, that the war in Ukraine affected Africa so much. First, hold on. Let us start from the East African community here.
Yes.
How many countries in the East African community trade with Ukraine? Or how many countries in the East African community trade with Ukraine?
You just need to...
No, I've checked. Mm-hmm. You talk about wheat. Most of the wheat that we consume here in Uganda come from Tanzania here.
Tanzania gets from where?
No. Tanzanians are good farmers. Get into northern Tanzania and you see huge fields of wheat.
No, you see, you must understand the global dynamics of trade. Because you see, when you localize it, because Tanzania, of course we import a number of things from Tanzania, okay, you know, beans and rice and stuff like that. But I'm showing you the challenge that exists at the global scale, that countries in the global south, in the non-aligned movement, need, one, to build capacity to be food sovereign. Two, we need to build energy sovereignty so that we produce our energy, so that in the process, our production of goods that we export is reduced, the cost of production is reduced, and therefore we can be able to compete on the global scale. And by extension, then we will be able to reduce imports or substitute imports and retain the foreign exchange that we need to drive our economies. And that will, in effect, address part of the question of debt. So, the global south is not saying that they need charity. We're not saying that the non-aligned movement needs charity from the north. We are saying we need fairness, we need equity, we need equality in the rules that govern agriculture, that govern trade, that govern production, that govern technology, so that we can compete equitably. And equity does not mean equality. It means that in situations where there has been a historical disadvantage.
I think, Julius, you have, as Africa and partly some countries in Asia,
yes,
you have only failed to add value to what you produce, and that failure you cannot peg it on, and that on the global north.
That's the third point. That's
you
the third
cannot.
point. We must produce.
goods that have value so that they attract. And who's failing you to produce them?
But you see,
Who's failing you?
no, but you see, look, if the rules of the game,
No, which rule? It starts with you.
No.
If they're telling you that
Yes.
you are not supposed to have certain contents in your maize that you export to other countries, and recklessly you get them there. So whom to blame? Are you going to blame Europe?
No.
Are you going to blame the global north?
Obviously, the question
Like
of
the economic war between Uganda and Kenya to do with eggs, to do with the rice, to do with posho. Do you peg it on the global north? Do you peg it on the global north? You need to sort out yourselves here.
No.
Standardize your issues.
There is politics. There is politics. We'll not delve into the politics, but we know that standards can be politicized to lock you out. And we know this. No one says that we should not meet standards. No one says that we should not add value. We do, and we must.
Why are you not meeting them? Why are you not meeting them? That's what you should answer.
You see, there are non-tariff barriers in global trade. I'll give you an example. When I worked at the Commonwealth, I visited a country in the Caribbean. That country used to export bananas to the EU. So one day, the EU introduced a rule that bananas that go to the EU market must be straight. They must be straight. That the consumers in Europe like straight bananas, that if it is bent, it means it had a problem, it has a genetic problem, and therefore, what this country did, in order to try that, and there must be no scratch on the banana, okay? Those are standards, fine, those are standards. Now, this country now had to start covering the banana fruit with a caveira. So there was an additional cost in production because you are trying to meet a market that they are narrowing to lock you out so that they can create market for their own people. We know that there is politicization of rules, there is politicization of even economic benefits.
But
if
those are the rules of the game, then
we must change.
Dance to the rules of the game.
There must be the rules. We have no problem, but the rules must be created with the participation of the actors. We saw, there is a recent requirement on coffee, where a new rule is coming that says countries must demonstrate that the coffee that they sell in the European market has not been grown on in lands that were once forests. Have you heard about it? Now, let me tell you about it. You see, it's a rule. And the idea, they say, we want to help you to protect your environment. So we don't want you to cut trees to plant coffee.
Do you have any issues with the way NAM runs its business?
I think NAM has seriously been doing a great job. But the dynamics are changing, and we must effectively take into account the changes that have happened in the world that must to ensure that it's more effective. And I'll give you 3 examples. Can I?
You can proceed.
Number 1, somebody earlier was asking and saying, why are people, the general public, not so much aware about NAM like it was with Chogo? And my answer briefly would be that NAM needs to have a strong presence of young people, a youth component of NAM. Because the majority of the population in most NAM countries are young people. But their participation in NAM activities are limited. So one of the areas that
Isn't that a challenge?
It's a challenge. And challenges are there to be addressed. So that's number 1. The second one is a stronger emphasis on the private sector and business participation. And I'm glad that Uganda has led in a significant way of having a business forum. It should have been a wider business forum beyond East African business forum. It should have been a non-aligned movement business forum, attracting business partners, business interests, investors from all over the NAM countries to be here in Kampala.
Isn't that a weakness within the NAM structures?
It's now a strength because it's being addressed now. It's being addressed. Some challenges, you choose to determine how you look at the challenge. But the challenge of the private sector in NAM is an opportunity that already, as Uganda, we are showing leadership in by organizing this business summit, business forum. But it can be done even better. Number three.
Julius.
Number three.
If you are running an organization
yes,
without an address,
who tells you?
Without a secretariat, let me tell you that a secretariat of NAM is the host country. If you are running an organization without membership in terms of funding, all what you are saying will remain on papers
not
and
true.
Point of references.
Not true.
You need to shield the thinking and the running of the way things are being done within NAM. Have a secretariat, fully funded, with a membership, like it is with all international bodies. For your own information, which I know, NAM is the second largest organization next to the UN.
Correct.
NAM has 60% of the world's population.
Correct.
NAM contributes almost 30%.
Correct.
To the global economic growth, which I can regard as a weakness, because you cannot have 60% of the world economic population, the world economic growth, and your contribution to the world development is only 30%. That's a failure. So those are issues that leaders who are convening in Kampala should be focusing on, not semantics.
No. I think on the question of organization and structure of NAM, you can choose two things. The problem is not the secretariat.
It is.
Because
if
we know,
the East African community here has a secretariat and has a membership funding, why is it that the 120 countries do not have?
You said there is a coordinating bureau in New York that coordinates the work of NAM during the period of the countries, and it's a permanent bureau. It's based in New York, okay? And Uganda as chair during this period. Wait.
I find it laughable.
Wait.
Even a coordinating bureau is in the global north.
Wait.
Isn't it? Isn't it a shame?
Wait.
Why not in Beijing?
Wait.
Why not in any other country in Africa?
Wait.
You run a coordinating bureau in the global north, which you are demonizing.
No. You see, you are taking it simplistically, because you see, it's not instead about location. It's about the issues you address. It's not about
well, Julius, there's no democracy here.
No,
I think we need to go for a short commercial break, and when we return, we shall continue with the debate. Let's go in for a short commercial break, guys.
We thank you so much for watching. You're still on UBC TV. Today, Monday, the 15th of January 2024, as Uganda makes history hosting the non-aligned movement. That's the 19th edition of the bloc that was formed in the 1950s. Over 100 heads of states and other dignitaries from over 100 countries are in Uganda to grace the summit. Now, like I said at the beginning, we'll be giving you different discussions and updates about the same summit and whatever is unfolding as Uganda hosts the summit. Timothy Sibasi was talking to Dr. Mchunguzi there over different issues to do with international relations, especially in the line of NAM. and let us allow them take a break as we go in for some other updates. We'll have them back. Ugandan permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Adonia Ayebare, has been elected by acclamation as the chairman preparatory senior officials meeting during the first session of the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit at Rwenzori Convention Center. Speak result Munyonyo. Ambassador Ayebare told the delegates that the task ahead is to adopt the final outcome document and the Kampala political declaration emphasizing the final document not to be reopened because the ministers in Baku held extensive negotiations and consultations on it under the leadership of Azerbaijan. This suggestion was supported by most of the delegates who said only technical updates should be considered to amend the final document, especially the Israel-Palestinian war, as we're going to hear in this update.
Thank you. Now we will proceed to our deliberations by electing the chair of the preparatory senior officials meeting. The host country nominated His Excellency Ambassador Adonia Ayebare, permanent representative of the Republic of Uganda to the United Nations, as the chair of the preparatory senior officials meeting. If there is no objection, I suggest to elect Ambassador Ayebare by acclamation as the chair of the senior officials meeting. And I don't see any objection, and Ambassador Ayebare is hereby elected as the chair of the senior officials meeting of the 19th Summit. I congratulate you, Excellency, and invite you to take the floor as a chair, and I wish you successful deliberations.
And overwhelmed by your confidence in assuming the chair of the senior officials preparatory committee for the 19th Movement Summit here in Kampala. And I join my minister in welcoming all of you. You're welcome to Uganda and to Kampala. Colleagues, I promise to chair this senior officials meeting with transparent. Colleagues, I promise to chair this senior officials meeting with transparency and openness, and I call on you to extend the same support you extended to our colleagues and friends of Azerbaijan. Ministers and colleagues, as you all recall, the final outcome document, which has been distributed to all of you, was adopted by our ministers in Baku after very extensive negotiation and consultations under the leadership of Azerbaijan. Our ministers adopted this final outcome document, and colleagues, I really implore you that this document should not be reopened. It should be we should only consider technical updates that have taken place between Baku and Kampala.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, let me first congratulate Ugandan side and wish fruitful deliberations to all of us. I'm more than confident that this 19th Summit of NAM will be another great success for the movement. And surely at the SOM, we have an important role in ensuring this success. That being said, on behalf of the Azerbaijani delegation, I just want to echo what have been said by our Ugandan colleagues, that unless it's a technical update, agreed parts of the outcome documents shouldn't be open in deliberations. And I want to thank our Algerian brothers for handing over the mic to us. Thank you so much.
warmly for your chairmanship, assuming the chairmanship of the NAM, and thank the Azerbaijan for its very outstanding presidency of our movement. Of course, Mr. Chairman, is a word of first support and full confidence on your chairmanship during this 3 years, the forthcoming 3 years. I wanted to express my delegation full support, and of course we will be in your side in every step in the life of this movement, and to echo and support your proposal not to reopen the Baku process, ministerial COB meeting, unless there is technical updates, and of course taking into account the development in the Palestinian question, which is obviously one of the major developments since July meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Scale to address the needs of our people in all corners of the Gaza Strip, and thirdly, to fight very strongly against the crime against humanity of mass displacement of our people outside the Gaza Strip, creating a second Nakba. These three objectives are the objectives now almost of everyone at the UN, with the exception of very small number of countries. We need the support of our movement after we put an end to this aggression to support us in acquiring our natural and legal right of becoming a member state in the United Nations. We need the full support of the movement around that objective, and we need the full support of the movement for our effort when we collectively go to the General Assembly to legislate the call for convening an international conference on the basis of international law and the global consensus on ending the occupation and the attainment of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, including independence and the right of the refugees.
Now, as the NAM summit opens in Kampala City, security have urged the public to be cooperative during this period of hosting the international summits, especially at the newly established security centers. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga told a media briefing at police headquarters in Naguru that additional security measures are in place to monitor gatherings and patrols along major roads. Police have also clarified on the directive against private security guards on holding guns during this period. Meanwhile, there are special policing booths established in strategic areas to monitor security situations during this period of hosting the non-aligned movement in Uganda. The public is also appealed to cooperate with the security, especially in restricted venues, whereas residents within host communities are advised to also cooperate maximally with the established security guidelines and personnel.
Okay, very good morning. Let's proceed to inform the public that the NAM stroke G77 plus China summits have kicked off peacefully. You're aware that this double summit is primarily taking place at Speak Resort Munyonyo. We don't have any untoward incidents of security concern. Several of the heads of state from the NAM countries, in addition to thousands of foreign and local dignitaries, staff, journalists are already in attendance amidst very strict security and safety measures. We released the safety measures and security measures that are in place, and want to inform you that these safety and security measures are continuing to be reviewed and implemented around the venues, routes, the surrounding areas. We have a few related cordon and road closures in the surrounding areas, and access to all venues have been restricted to accredited individuals only. Then additional safety measures are also being implemented at Entebbe International Airport within the city to facilitate the movement of the high-level dignitaries. Again, as observed, additional police and UPDF officers have been deployed to monitor all gatherings, and what we have is that we've not had many disruptions this morning, but we are going to continuously regulate to ensure that the other daily activities of Ugandans, businesses and movements are not highly disrupted. We also want to advise the public, especially those around summit venues, to put in considerable extra time for travel, including along the designated routes to Entebbe International Airport and Munyonyo, due to the increased security measures that are in place. Then we have not had any incidents of public disorder. Usually when you have such highly billed events, we have activists who usually take opportunity to carry out protests and acts of public disorder. We've not registered any, and generally we still have a very peaceful environment. To clarify on a statement that we issued, it was a message to managing directors of private security organizations on the manner with which they should do on the security of guns under the private security organizations. So there are those who are sort of misinterpreting it like there's a ban now on the use of guns by private security organizations, which is not true. The managing directors of these private security organizations were simply asked to explore the possibility of keeping guns at areas of deployment where the guards on rotation hand over to the incoming, or a collective transportation where the guns are transported maybe in their vans and without having them exposed. Remember, we are having heightened security, and of course we know that we have to ensure that we tighten all areas where guns can easily be stolen, grabbed, and misused. So it is against that background that we advised the managing directors to comply with the guideline.
We are here to update you on what is happening on the roads as the NAM and G77 plus China summits commence. So we are here to clarify on exactly what is going to be on the roads in as far as traffic issues are concerned. We are all aware that we are receiving our visitors through in Entebbe International Airport, and we are going to have two main routes for these delegates. And these routes are the route that begins from Entebbe, from the international airport, comes up to Mpara, then it joins the Kampala Expressway. When these delegates get to Kajansi interchange, we shall see some of them take the route to the summit venue, which is the Munyonyo And the other delegates will continue on the Kampala Expressway to join the Kampala Northern Bypass through Bombo Road to the Naisa Road. They join Marago Roundabout. They continue on Yusufurule Road. They continue up to Nairo Avenue to access their hotels of residence. And the route that is from Entebbe International Airport up to Munyonyo, where the summit venue is, that is the summit route itself, and which is going to be highly guarded or tightly regulated, with a number of diversions and holding of traffic and other road users. But of course, the traffic police will take into consideration of all those who will be accessing the Entebbe airport, those who have flights and those who are coming in the country. So on this very route of Kampala Expressway to Munyonyo, we don't expect there motorcycles, and all other motor vehicles on these routes will be diverted onto different routes. For example, we shall have diversions on Serena Chigo traffic lights. We shall have diversions on Mutungo Chitiko traffic lights and Busabala traffic lights for all vehicles which are going to be sited on the Munyonyo Spa, or which is our summit route. And we shall also have, if need arises, if there is need for this, we shall also have most of the motor vehicles who reside in Entebbe that want to access Kampala city. They will all be diverted at Impara. They will all be diverted at Impara to take the Entebbe highway, so that the Impala that joins the Kampala Expressway is only left to be used by our delegates. Still on Munyonyo Road or Munyonyo Spa, vehicles that will be approaching Munyonyo coming from Gawa Road, they will all be diverted to UCB Road to access Buziga and the Rukuri areas. When it comes to the northern bypass, we shall have a diversion at Busega flyover and on the slip roads to restrict all vehicles from accessing the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway. This is only when there is a need for that. Still, we also expect other traffic diversions along the entire northern bypass up to Chebando Chisasi roundabout. We shall have these diversions at Sentema. We shall have these diversions at Nansana, then at Bwaise, Karerwe, Chebando, and the Chisasi interchange. Flyovers, and also on the slip roads to restrict vehicles from accessing the northern bypass. At Bwaise flyover, traffic will be diverted to Sir Apollo Kagwa Road to access the city center. We shall have traffic on most of all the road junctions and access roads, and traffic will be regulated by these traffic officers according to the movement of the delegates. Like I said before, we don't expect motorcycles access the summit route, which is Entebbe Airport up to Speak Resort Munyonyo. We also...
Yes, we thank you so much for watching. That is now an update about how police is ready and security to handle the whole situation. You had the police spokesperson, that is Fred Enanga. We started with him giving an overview of how they have deployed and how they are ready as police to ensure that the whole season is manned up well in terms of security. And now we ended with the spokesperson for traffic telling us still how the diversions have been designed to ensure that we are not inconvenienced as the citizens, but as well, the guests are also given the routes and the movement that they deserve for this period that we're going to have the summit hosted in Kampala. Timothy Sibasi is going to be winding up with Dr. Muchunguzi here, and let us get to hear from them as they close their discussion. Then we'll get back to you later.
Well, thanks, Jordan, for giving those highlights. We are back, Julius. We went into a commercial break when we were discussing running the affairs of NAM from New York.
Please.
I find it weird, real weird, that affairs of the Global South, the Bureau, is being managed from New York. It speaks volume on the continued hegemony of external forces in different forms in the affairs of the Global South. What's your take about that?
My take is that, first of all, the question of NAM, the movement becoming more effective in its operations, is important. No doubt about that. Does it require necessarily a physical secretariat?
Why not?
Maybe not. And this is why.
Why maybe not?
Because, look, today, I think the mechanisms that are in place, the host country and the chair country, Uganda, with the bureau that is in New York, with the technology that is available, physical structures have often, and we know, been sometimes wasteful enterprises that just simply create jobs for bureaucrats to sit and actually not even deliver on the interests and concerns of the member states.
So what I think, it's okay to run an organization in a vacuum?
No. It's not a vacuum. It's not.
Show me the bureau. Show me the secretariat.
It's not a vacuum.
Show me the headquarters.
Today, and COVID showed us.
And who's funding
and
the bureau in New York?
And COVID showed us that with technology, there is so much that we can reduce cost and become more effective without necessarily having physical, structural secretariats.
So for you, it's okay. Such an organization of 120 countries to run their affairs in a vacuum.
What is important? It's not a vacuum, but what is important?
I'll ask you one question.
What is important?
Where is the secretariat?
You see, if secretariat to you means a building, then
headquarters where?
No.
And where are the checks and balances? Who checks on the other?
If secretariat to you means a building,
I'm not saying building. Are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that the headquarters in Addis Ababa is a white elephant?
No.
The headquarters of the UN in New York is a white elephant.
Not every grouping requires physical structures, buildings, and in one position.
So what are the fears of the 120 member countries to have?
It's not a fear. It's not a fear. It's being logical in the sense that we believe. I personally believe that you can increase efficiency and effectiveness without necessarily creating additional structures. And we've seen it even in our country. Here, in this country, the government is rationalizing, you know that. Yeah. But rationalizing does...
As we come to the end of the show, what are some of the challenges facing the organization?
So, number one, I think it derived from the theme of this summit, deepening cooperation for shared global affluence. It is clear from the theme that the affluence, the wealth that is available in the global space is not shared equitably. And we need to ensure equity in global access to resources, to financing, to funds, to opportunities. Number two, in the global south and in the non-aligned movement countries, the challenge of employment and opportunity, especially for young people, the bulk of the young people in most of our countries really must be addressed, and countries in the global south must work on whatever it takes to ensure that there is opportunity for these young people, so that the young people become an opportunity, not a threat to peace. The third challenge is climate change. Climate change is an existential threat. A number of the countries in the global south and in the non-aligned movement are facing challenges of extended droughts, of floods, of all of these all these climate changes that are threatening livelihoods, food production, and settlements. And finally,
whether that's terrorism, ethnic conflicts, religious
finally,
wars.
Finally, the issue of conflict. The issue of conflict, which speaks to terror. Which speaks to
Julius, we have run out of time, and we need to continue with other in-depth analysis. Let us go in for a short break. As we return, we shall be coming back with other expert analysis on climate change and the readiness of Entebbe Airport, which is the gateway of Uganda to the international community. The mayor will also be elaborating on that.
But one thing that I want to say, just as you sign me out, is to say that this is, Uganda could never have been even more prouder that this country, this leadership, is hosting these two major summits at the same time and chairing them within the same space.
Okay, thanks, Julius, for being a part of this interactive news segment.
Pleasure.
Always shall always come to your door to call you
No
when there are
problem.
such serious issues to talk about. Let's take a short break. When we come back, more expert analysis.